didn't get as much noise as I heard before. You guys are amazing. I'm so happy to be here. I didn't even know I would be on the program so early, and my glasses are steaming up, by the way, so I can't see. I have a short time. I just have to say that I'm so happy to see the program. I'm happy to see you, firstly. I'm so happy about this program, but about Trailblazer Plus continuing in Limpopo. I hope it does continue, and we must find ways of making sure that that happens. The whole idea was that youth should not be recipients of change, but rather leading the change. And that sets the scene for the rest of your lives. That is the core of the program. Whatever you're doing, it's about you being the change agent and taking control of your lives and bringing others with you. If I can just say, because Tammy was just saying a little bit about the program, this program, and I've been working with enke for about 8 years, and on this program for a little bit more. And we did a lot of design work, because it is really actually very different to most of what's happening with youth. And it was co-designed, just so you know, with youth. I used to live in Gauteng. I live in Cape Town now, but I lived in Gauteng and Johannesburg for about 30 years. And so I'm an old lady. And I worked with, you know what a junior council is? You know, like junior mayor, you work with the city. Anyway, I worked with youth leaders in Ekurhuleni in Gauteng, and we co-designed this program together. That's how we came to the idea of working with RCLs. It was their idea, not my idea. So we co-designed this program to think what it could be, to build. It's really about building civic leadership, but in the meantime, improving school, making sure that we all come along to make sure that everyone finishes school, everyone can read, everyone is strong and ready for the world, and also knows about teamwork. One of the most important things in the world, I can tell you, it's not about the technical skill. Look, I've got a PhD in economics, I know about technical, but the most important skills and capabilities are about leadership, teamwork, being able to work within institutions, driving change, feeling a sense of hope. As we know, a lot of young people don't have hope. If you don't have hope, you won't study, you won't go anywhere. You just add it up. You don't have to be a genius to know that. But most kids don't have hope. That's what we're trying to do. We need to build hope, teamwork, positivity, the leadership within all of us, and working together. That's what this is about. So I'm so keen to hear your projects. Now, so this idea was developed with these youth leaders, and then I joined up with enke in, I think, around 2018, and we started, fundraising was a big challenge, and we did a pilot in Ekurhuleni, Ekurhuleni Metro in Gauteng. And we worked with 4 schools. Some were rural, like yours, and some were urban. Ekurhuleni is so big, it's almost like a country. And we piloted the program, and it went from there. And now we've reached thousands of people, and of course, indirectly, many more, as you have. You've reached many, many people already. So imagine what's going to happen now. Imagine where you're going to go from here. Now, where did this idea come from? For me, I know many people who were activists in the old days. So as hard as things were under apartheid, in activist movements, young people at your age 13, 14, 15, were brought into political activity. And they were trained to run meetings, they were trained how to look like an adult, they were reading and becoming very mature maybe before their years. I thought, we need to start re-engaging at that level. I think too often I see, and I've tested this, and I'm sure you've experienced this, that high school students are treated like children. And if you're treated like a child, then you will act like a child. And we would like to see the adult in you, right? I'm hoping this program had that effect. Do you feel that it did? We're trying to draw the adult up. Because you're you know more than we do. You're going through a lot of change, right? Hormones and growing up and
going through growth spurts and becoming an adult, we're trying to see more of that adult and that you start to learn what to do with that. That's what a lot of some of the leaders you see today, that's what they went through when they were your age. And that stopped happening. So that was part of the inspiration. Another part of the inspiration is Okabono hore ke mosadi le hoa. Right? Yeah? So you imagine I am a certain sort of person maybe, and there's no doubt that I grew up in a home where they expected me to get educated. We had resources, we had food on the table, we didn't have to worry about those things. But that's not, my father was born into a home in a rural area in a house as big as an RDP house. They slept in one bed. Everybody slept in one bed. They were deeply poor. He was the first one to be educated in the family. He was the only one in his generation to be educated. And because he did that, he prospered. And the next generation, that's me, right? I didn't have those problems. But he raised us in a way to understand poverty, to understand what that was about, to always fear it. That's always in our mind, because he was always afraid of being poor again, right? My grandfather had to leave school when he was 12 years old to support his family. Okay? He was selling newspapers. This is about 100 years ago. But he had to leave school when he was 12, and he had to sell newspapers. And then he didn't have an education, and he built a business, and he became well-to-do. And so my mother did better, and my mother and father married, and then they had us, and we're all educated. Our children are all educated, and so we went from there.
Yeah.
So the conditions that they were living in were very, very poor. Now you might look at me and think, you wouldn't see that, right? You wouldn't guess that. Okay? What I'm trying to say is, as young as you may feel you are, remember you need to be like my grandfather and my father. You need to be thinking, if I can say, because you're leaders, you were elected. And I'm finding around the country, RCLs are elected very well. I haven't met you yet, and I can't wait to hear what you're going to talk about, but I can feel the energy. So you're going to have a role in society of some sort. And you need to be thinking, even though you may be thinking about yourself because you're young and you're trying to make a plan, how are you going to be leveraging and using this program and hopefully finishing your education so that the next generation, you're going to be creating a family and creating the conditions in which you do better, but also your family is drawn out of poverty on a sustainable basis. That's your job going forward. Now, finishing school, that's why we focused on school action projects rather than anything else. The most important role, there are many things you could be doing, but the most important thing an RCL could be doing is working with your peers to make sure that everybody finishes matric. Now, it would have been better had there been a possibility of having a certificate in grade 10. And there's a lot of national discussion about doing that, but unfortunately that doesn't exist. So the difference between how, you may not see this because so many people may be unemployed or whatever, but the fact is, and I ran a think tank on this, and I know a lot about this stuff. The difference between finishing school and getting your matric, whether you go to university or whatever you do, but the difference between your life chances, if you finish matric or if you don't, is just night and day. It's an enormous difference. You may not think it is, you may not think there's any reason, or some of your peers or some of your friends may not see why it matters, but I can assure you, it is 100% important to get that certificate, no matter what you do after that. So that's why we did school action projects, be it reading, be it even if it's a food garden so people are eating, whatever you think is going to be important to get you and your peers across the line is what this is meant to be about, and that you are leading that. You're not just being fed it, you have to be leading that and can look back and think, that's what I did, and maybe even come back, be an enke facilitator, work in your school and do these things. So I want to thank you for your time. and your ears, and I just can't wait to hear more about your projects. Thanks.